Good evening, students. Do you hear me?
Yes, teacher. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, yes, teacher.
Okay, thanks for joining the encounter. We will discuss tonight some information about how to develop creativity in class. And this week you are reading about it. And tonight we're going to share some information about that. So the readings that you had this week are in learning environments to develop learners' creativity. It's in Spanish. It was an article written by a teacher from Universidad La Salle. And we will start by discussing what is a learning environment. What do you think it is? What words do you associate with that concept?
Well, I think that
Oh, sorry.
learning.
Excuse me.
Blanca?
Go ahead, Flor. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. I think learning environment is a special accommodation that teachers have to do in order for the students to learn, which means that in a modern teaching, if a teacher is teaching, excuse me, about the specific topic, the classroom has to be involved, everything regarding that topic, in order for the students to think about everything and to have ideas regarding that specific topic, and to deep into the topic, and also to have critical thinking. And I think when we have that type of environment in the classroom, students are more comfortable in reading, in researching, in talking together about the same issue. And well, I think that's the learning environment.
Okay, so you highlighted the idea of having all people discussing the same topic, right?
Yes.
Teacher.
Okay, who else wants to add information?
Teacher, me.
Flor?
Okay, teacher, thank you. Well, about the reading, I had the opportunity to read some pages, and at the beginning said that learning environment is the space shared by a community, not always in a school. In another space, it is possible, in which their culture makes possible interactions between each other. The people are there to learn around a common interest for reading, and the majority times is guided by a leader, or in our case, by a teacher. And this environment can be evident in the classroom, in real situations, where the people can interaction around any problem, maybe learning workshops, or the virtual environment. It is possible. When we can interact through the virtual learning objects or forums, like sometimes we can do it in the platform teacher.
Okay, so 3 more ideas that you added is that it can be a learning environment, so that it can be a classroom or any other space where people discuss. And that they are discussing about the same topic, right? Okay. Artley wrote that is an environment that allows and guarantees a nice teaching and learning process for students. Exactly. Good. So that's what the reading says, actually. That is a space where people discuss about the same topic. And being a space means that it can be not only, as Flor mentioned, a classroom, but also can be in a virtual space, or can also be a park or any other place where people gather to discuss about the same topic. Okay, what words do you associate with creativity?
Me, can I teach you? Also.
Flor, yes, go ahead.
Okay, about the reading, there are different definitions, or related different topics according different authors. But about creative refers to the mental process of creation. to the subject, the social and cultural condition by which creative action are characterized. And it was a very interesting phrases and the reading because speaking about the creative, so that is a very special moment when we as a person can use our mental abilities in order to create a new thing. Creative is like the backbone. That is correct, teacher? Columna vertebral?
Yes.
It's like the backbone of a project. And depend on the approach, we can speak about its definition. And depend on the approach with which it is analyzed on the timeline, on the history. And according to, for example, to authors, Marina, she said that creative is to submit mental operation to a creative project. It is to make something valuable that before doesn't exist, but in this moment exists. And according to the other author, Torrance, in 1976, creative is the process of being sensitive to problems, to differences, gaps in knowledge, to lacks of harmony, for example. And there was a very interesting phrase that said that we cannot be creative against what we are not interested in. Because if I am interested in any special issue, not always a problem, but also another thing, we can be creative in front of. And if we want to face a problem or a special situation, and I involve my interest, it's very easy for me, in this case, or for any person, to be creative in order to solve any situation, any problem, or to create a new product, depending on the interest I have.
Okay, thank you, Flor. Who else wants to add information or wants to mention other words that you associate with creativity?
I might have something to add. You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Giancarlo.
Okay. Creativity has to do with the ability that people or human have to create or generate ideas. I think a central concept to creativity is the concept of ideas. When you generate ideas, you can say that you're creative. Because, well, for example, I'll bring information from other discipline. In this case, it's a discipline that is called knowledge management, and those who are business administrators here might know what I'm talking about. They in knowledge management, there is a difference between what is creativity, invention, and innovation. And the term creativity is usually referred to as the ability that you have to think outside of the box in order to generate ideas that are that somehow present a different viewpoint or a different way of doing things from what is already established. So the central word or the key concept around creativity is the concept or the word idea or ideas.
Okay, so ideas, different ideas. I'm going to read what some of you wrote in the chat box. It says, creativity should be the ultimate goal as educators to promote critical thinking into students. Sandra wrote, it is a mental process, a capacity or competence that can be learned. And Blanca wrote, teachers need to inspire students to become curious about the world. Arle wrote, the ability to transcend traditional ideas, rules, patterns, relationships, or the like, or to create meaningful new ideas, forms, methods, interpretations. Okay, somebody else wants to add other words that you associate with the concept of creativity?
Yes, teacher.
Chad,
Good night, everybody. I think that one of the important things about the creativity is the personality of the student. I think that we should promote the critical thinking, the improve and the develop of the different skills, and the creativity has other issues involved. But it depends also on the personality of the student, because if I have a shy student, but this student have this skill to create and improve different stuff about their learning and the way they saw the world by interacting with it, um, allow another process which is connected with the experience. So if doesn't matter if he is a shy person, his personality promote the creativity in different ways in order to improve different facts that are involved in the learning process.
Okay, so a person can be shy, but can be creative, is what you
Yes,
want to highlight here.
yes.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Somebody else wants to add other information related to the concept of creativity?
Me, teacher.
Liliana?
I think that creativity is related with the context that I live, because I need to practice, I need to develop the abilities in that way. I need to innovate, and as Sharon said, that uh, most of the time, the students are shy when they are creativity. I noticed that.
Okay, so innovation is something that you associate with the word. Blanca also wrote that reflection. Okay, and in the reading is so important to highlight that is considered something that can be learned. So some of you mentioned that it's an ability. Sandra wrote that it's a habit, a competence. And it's important that it can be learned, so we can teach it. A creative person organizes his or her thoughts, wants to get a goal, and also develops self-regulation. So all that can be learned, which is very important. Okay, what about the actions or how we can promote or encourage creativity in students? What do you think we can do?
I think,
Giancarlo?
yes, I think creativity is something that you can foster in the classroom well, first of all, and as a teacher, you need to switch your classroom from a teacher-centered, uh, type of work or lesson into student-centered lesson for them to be able to explore and create things as they work with the study object. In this case, is language. One way to get students to be creative is to propose them things in which they have to think about solutions to problems. So problem solving included in any type of lesson will foster students' creativity because they will need to think about ways to resolve problems or issues or situations with uh, products. If you want them to develop products, for example, if you have a lesson, uh, these days we were talking about students working with the environment, and you told them, okay, what can we do, or what things can you do or generate in order to resolve a problem with people littering, for example, and say, well, we could create this type of tools, or we could do uh, these things, and have them create that in the classroom as they work with the language, which at the same time provides a meaningful lesson, is one way for teachers to foster creativity. Another thing that I consider important here, I haven't read the material for this week yet because I usually wait for the encounter before I start reading the material, is that you need to allow students to be themselves as they work when they start imagining different situations in order to become or to be creative. So I think those two are my suggestions or my contribution to how can we develop students' creativity in the classroom.
Thank you, Giancarlo. So, three important things that you mentioned to allow students respect the difference, and be themselves. To have students solve problems, and to change from teacher-centered to student-centered, which means that we should not plan everything in the class. So that all those three promote creativity. Okay, somebody else wanted to talk.
Me, teacher.
Jorge.
Yes. Well, the creativity is well, kind of impossible to teach. So you have
Jorge, we can't hear you. Could you please check your microphone?
everyone, but what hello, can you hear me there?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes,
Can
we
you hear
can
me there?
hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. No, as I was saying, I mean, creativity is not something that can be taught. So you have to give space to students to be creative, solve from situation. Things that thing that's amazing. What they can do or they can achieve well thinking out of the box. I don't know how classes for everyone with their students or when I things or when I try to solve
George, I'm sorry to interrupt you. And again, we lost the idea. Because when you start speaking, we can hear you, and then the sound is not good, and we lost the idea. Could you please type it? I'm sorry. I'm going to read what some of you wrote. Arley wrote through motivation and interesting activities, to use innovative lesson plans by using unconventional materials, awakening curiosity in the activities that the students are interested in experimenting, that the teacher is original and proposes to his students. Lida wrote by doing challenging activities in which you allow your students to think and give different outcomes. Good. Somebody else have more ideas?
Me, teacher. Can you hear me?
Yes, Andres.
Teacher, once I read that the brain is more interested in schematas. So if you give students complete ideas or complete structures or everything, the brain is not going to be interested in that. So I think a good idea to develop creativity is to let the students discover things by themselves. So I think they are going to be interested, and as well as the brain. So I think discovering, as Giancarlo said, solving problems as well is a good way to develop creativity for the students.
So don't give the students the answers, but just give them the opportunity to find the answers. Don't give everything done, as you mentioned.
Yes, to let them to build the concepts, the structures, or everything. Give them the opportunity to build and to the discovering ideas or structures of things, concepts.
Okay.
Teacher, I also think that working on projects will help the students to develop their creativity in the way they figure how to solve issues related with the research they are going to make. Because sometimes they argue some facts that are involved with the research, but in many ways they figure how to solve those problems through creativity. Oh, maybe they say we are going to make this research by doing these steps and organize a sequence of steps, or maybe they figure a method to go through, I mean, for following a goal and go through it. And I think working on project also is a good idea to develop the creativity of our students.
Exactly. So projects are problem-solving exercises, right? So
Yes, and also all of the students to get involved with the environment, that get into a context, understand the reality of the project and the problem solving they are planned to make.
when you mentioned having students realize about the problems around them, we can think about problems in the same school, problems at home, problems in the community where they live, in the country where they live, or
Yeah, and also this promotes different solutions to the different problems they are going to plan to 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 solve for same something.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. I'm going to read Tiffany's opinion. She wrote, integrate more hands-on learning. It means allow the students to work on and create with their hands, like coloring, painting, integrating those kinds of activities can help them to be more creative. Speaking from my own experience, as I am an artist, I learn more when I can involve my hands and create something, right? And Francisco wrote, being original, open-minded, and allowing experiments according to the context of the topic developed. Good. Any other idea on how to help
Yes,
students?
teacher.
Flor?
Well, teacher, I think that a good way to do that is to ask strategical questions to the students, maybe about their environment, their context, or about any topic that they are interested in. Because if the teacher asks good questions, the students have to think about the answer and maybe about any solution. Question like how or what do you think about this, or how do you use this or that, about any topic, any context, or about their environment, or any problem that they are suffering in their context, maybe on their houses, or with any friend or personal problem, I don't know. So for me, a good strategy is to ask questions.
To think about good questions so they can give us their own answers. Good. Okay, all what you guys mentioned is in the readings. Then let's also think about the characteristics of creativity. What do you think are those characteristics? Some of you mentioned innovation. What else do you think? A person who is creative is also a person who has some qualities. What are those qualities that the person usually has? I'm sorry, I'm back. So I asked you for the qualities that creative people usually have.
Teacher, can you hear me?
Yes, John.
Yes, I would like to add one characteristic that I think is regarding creativity.
Yes.
Yes, I think the autonomy, the learner autonomy is very important in this because one of the most important goals inside the classroom for teachers is to allow their students, they should become autonomous learners, teachers, because they could take either some or all the responsibility what they do, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And inside the reading that you recommend this week, I found a very interesting quote that I would like to share with you. It's about to promote learning environment that enable the development of creativity thinking inside the classroom, because privileged alternative for transforming both social and cultural issues that we face today, which are tending to become more complicated every day, teacher. I consider it very interesting inside the reading.
Okay, John, thank you. So yes, we actually see that people who are creative usually self-regulate, right? They think about what they do, and they are they don't expect every all the time that somebody tells them what to do, but they are risky and they are autonomous.
Exactly.
Okay, what other characteristic do you guys
Teacher,
consider?
maybe, good evening, teacher. Maybe the curiosity and the motivation. And I think that it's important when we learn the students to explore different options and that give the opportunity to make mistakes and do over or figure out the problem, or give the opportunity to think in different alternatives, or maybe different ways to create or to think something with motivation. Maybe that is a good characteristics about creativity.
Yes, Joanna. So a person who is who has motivation and who is curious starts looking for information and can actually create something new. Arley wrote, they are curious, they are organized, and they are innovators. I'm going to write here, organized. And
Teacher, also, I think that desire to promote autonomy is an individual process, because I am not going to be a creative person if I follow the other instructions to be creativity. I think there is no way or rule to follow to develop a creativity skill for saying something. Is what I am motivated to search or to create, to draw, and I can express my creativity through different things, not only by making drawings or interacting with different elements for saying something. Is what I thought that I can do and how I'm going to make it.
okay, so you mentioned the idea that creative people don't expect others to tell them what to do,
Yes.
and that they are organized, or they plan things, which is true.
Yes.
Good. And Lida wrote, to be original, to have an open mind, to develop metacognition process, flexibility, tolerance to failure. Exactly. John wrote that is called true empowerment to continue learning outside the learning context, right? And Blanca wrote they play with their fantasy and dreams. Exactly. So you mentioned most of the characteristics that are in the reading. Uh, Originality, open mind to new experiences, curiosity and motivation, tolerance to uncertainty, flexibility, tolerance to failure, and persistence. So how can we help students to be tolerant to uncertainty if we are all the time telling them what to do? Or how can we promote curiosity if we are all the time planning the things that the students are going to do in class? Or if we don't want them to make mistakes, how can we expect the students to be tolerant to failure? So the reading also mentions some ways to promote, for example, each one of the characteristics. So originality. So how can we promote originality? What do you think we can do?
Teacher, I think that to promote originality, we can make them like to create new things. I mean, if we let them think and create new projects without telling them exactly what they have to do, just like maybe some suggestions, they are able to create something new, something that they consider original from their own ideas.
Okay, so give them the opportunity to make decisions, right? About what they want to, for example, uh, the project they want to work on. Okay, which other ideas?
Yes, teacher.
Flor.
I think that it's very important that the teacher informs the students' ideas. No matter if it is not that the teacher want to listen to, but it's very important for the students that the teacher say, okay, yes, it's a good idea, very important. How can you do that? So that for me, the let that the student be original about any issue or any topic or any problem that they have to face.
Okay, so that we can help them to become sensible to the problems they face or they see around.
Yes, that is the idea.
Okay, what else? Any other idea on how to promote originality?
I think I insist again that when the teacher takes off the head of the staring feature in the classroom and allows students to be when they are being creative, not to restrict the things that they do. For example, sometimes we tend to provide models for students to follow, and we tell them like, okay, I want you to do this, but it has to be just like this. And instead of doing that, we can tell students, okay, what ideas or what ways can you do this better without providing them with models. Again, to me, originality is something that if we go to linguistic resources by themselves, it's gonna be complicated if we try to think about it like that. Maybe they will explore with the language or whatever, but language is it's already set. But when they're working on projects, if we want them to be originals, instead of giving them like the model of what they have to do exactly, we can like allowing them to be themselves by going ahead and creating the things that they want to create and not being restrictive and not being with the negative feedback telling them okay, that doesn't work, this is not what we want, because they will be thinking all the time about satisfying the teacher and not speaking their minds out with the products that they make in the classroom. So those two behaviors from the teacher's side can promote originality in the classroom according to my viewpoint.
So you mentioned something important, and is that we need, teachers need to change their minds. We need to think about giving the students the opportunity to do something different and not just to please what we want to listen or what we want them to do. But we need to be flexible, and we need to become aware of differences and allow those differences to be part of the lessons. Good. So the reading mentions that we can have students probably think about connections between elements that seem to be disconnected, or to think about uncommon but relevant solutions to different problems. So that besides what you guys mentioned, those are also two suggestions on how to promote originality. What about how to promote open mind attitudes to new experiences?
I think that like the most common activity that will help you to develop the open mind attitude would be like to give them real situations and try them, and I mean try them for them to give a solution for it, especially community situations. Because when you tell a student, okay, what would you do if you're a parent and now your daughter is pregnant, but now your daughter doesn't wanna have the baby. So with these type of experiences, the students are going to know the type of situations that they have in the real life or in their community, and in that way they will understand the other, and understand that the solution is not like judging people, but understanding their issues and try to look for a solution. So, I mean, trying to look for a solution for real situation would be like a good way for students to have an open mind and understand other people.
Okay, good. So the idea that you mentioned is like to take a situation to the class and have students give their opinions on how to solve that situation, so they can hear two different points of views. Very good. So any other idea?
Yes, I
May I
think
teach you?
like face them to different situations. I mean, for saying something, we are working on a project, and then the students have to face a situation in which they, for saying something, the weather is not going to help them to make the research, and also to take different photos and all that stuff related with the research. So we face them to a situation, and they have to figure how they are going to solve that problem. So I think teacher, we should assume um, a guidance attitude in order to show them different ways, not just show them, just guide them to see with different eyes the situation. If the weather is not going to help us about taking those photos, so we can take photos during the rain, and we we can wait till the rain stops and all that things. Is for real life, and also by developing different skills.
So have them solve the problems they are facing in the different stages of the task that they have to do.
Yes.
Okay. Somebody else?
Yes, teacher.
Andres?
Teacher.
Yes, Andres, we can hear you. Andres?
Yes, teacher. I think as an English teacher, we have advanced. Can you hear me?
Sometimes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Teacher, I think as an English teachers, we have a big advantage uh, to have the students open-minded because we have to with a different culture, so there is a big chance to get the students curious about different issues that they are going to see in the lessons. So I think it's a good way to get the students open-minded.
Well, it's actually what we need, right? So, because we know in our culture, students are always expecting teachers to tell them what to do. So, actually, what we need to do is to promote students making decisions and solving problems on their own. And as you mentioned, it's a challenge. It's a challenge that we need to um, think how to solve. How we need to promote those skills.
Teacher, excuse me again, but I am kind of disagree because for saying something in my case, when my students came to me and said, teacher, I want to say this sentence, but I don't know how to do it. So I said, well, try to think about changing the verb, or maybe the things that you are working, or maybe the time if you are going to say this sentence. So they say, I can say that thing in this way, and it's correct. Yes, you should think in another way to write those sentences. Or maybe if I show them a picture and they have to make a description of someone that is in the picture, and they have to figure how to describe that person according with the image. So they have to make a complete feedback about the vocabulary and the grammar, the structure that they are going to use, and also the tense and all that stuff. So for me, in my case, I'm disagree because the students have the ability to solve those problems through creativity by research and making feedback about the vocabulary and all the stuff that we teach them in order to use language to express different things. So the open-minded will be present in any class, and also when we plan dynamics or another kind of activity besides of writing and writing and writing and writing. So the students got the point or the goal of the class, but also they get involved in other ways to express themselves. And for me, in my case, I am disagree with my partner, and I'm sorry for that.
Well, he mentioned that, well, we know that students actually have the ability to be creative. But what he mentioned is that in our culture, students usually, sometimes most of the times, they ask the teacher to tell them what to do. So they are not independent, and we need to promote the development of creativity, because usually
But
students always expect us to tell them what to do or what to.
yes, that's true. In one way, it's true because for our culture, we are expecting that someone tell us what to do and how to do it. but it is related also with personality, as I mentioned before. Yeah, because some students, and I said again, a shy student can be the most creative student in our classroom, and he doesn't need that the teacher said what to do. But there are another kind of students that said, teacher, what do I have to do? And if I do it in this way, it's correct. And if I don't, what is going to happen? Because in our culture, the grade is the most important things in some classroom. But also we have students that start develop the activity without saying, you have to do this in this way or follow these rules. And they just go through what they thought and the instruction, and try to expose their point. Teacher, I do it in this way, is correct? Oh yes, I like it because you are the first person who do it in this way. So I think we have the two sides of the coin in this point.
You mentioned something very important, and is that grades are the most important thing for many students. And it is because what we grade is not a student's ability to make decisions, but what we grade is a student's ability to memorize information or to follow instructions or other things that we are giving more importance. And that's something
I think
that happened in our culture because in different schools and also the public ones, the grade is the most important thing. And it doesn't matter how many hours you spend by supposedly teaching a topic in which the student is not going to understand, and the student is not going to use that language to express something, or to complete the goal that you are going to propose. But in order to promote the open mind, we have to figure different activities in that way that the students see the topic as a significant activity in which they really learn to express themselves in our case, and it could be significant, and also we are going to complete the goal by giving the grade. But we have to focus in the way we plan our classes, because even in our case, we are always thinking about the grade, but we are not thinking if they really understand and if they really learn. So it is a mix of different issues. It's beside the culture, it's about the teaching, the learning process, and also the grade and the management of the society, for saying something.
Yes, many things are implied there. Giancarlo, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yes. I wanted to add that open mindedness is something that has a lot to do with tolerance to difference. And tolerance to difference at some point is in the classroom and in your classroom is highly controlled by your position as a teacher and the way you present yourself to the students and the way you provide students reinforcement to the processes that undertake in order to complete a task or in order to go through the learning process. I'll tell you this. If I present myself as a very rigid person in a classroom that I do not accept or I do not tolerate difference, do you think my students will want to go ahead and present a different precision from mine, as Sharon mentioned, knowing that I'm the one who's going to give them the final grade at the end of the day? So if I present myself like not like close-minded, like very rigid, like intolerant to culture and to different ways of seeing things and seeing the world itself, I'm not promoting open-mindedness in my students, because my students in the end of the day would say, well, you know, I need to do things the way this guy wants me to do it, because, you know, he will not give me the good grade that I want to take home. If we're talking about a little kid, or the one that I need in order to graduate, if we're talking about the students, for example, the one that I deal with at work. So I firmly believe that, yes, it's true that personality is something that you build through society, through your interactions with your family, and it's shaped throughout your life, and that's true. And at some point, what students learn outside the classroom, they bring it to the classroom, and they can make it a little bit more open-minded to others, if you compare them to others. But in your classroom, you can set uh, like the route that the students will undertake if they see you as someone who is open to different uh, type of cultures or different ways of seeing things. And to close this, I'll give you a short example that happened when I was in school. I remember I had a teacher that was a religion teacher. He would never accept an answer that was against the religious viewpoint that he was defending. He was Catholic, and there were people that was from other types of religions in the classroom, and they were afraid of expressing their viewpoints, because these Catholic teacher that was from the old school would never accept and even downgrade the students if they were proposing different types of answers from the one that he expected. So I can say that open-mindedness was not promoted in that classroom by that teacher, because of of the way he presented himself to the classroom and the way he promoted the activities. So same thing we can do. If we present ourselves to the classroom like accepting a student's proposal that goes outside of the box, do not go according to what we sometimes expect from them, and we don't tell them, okay, that's not correct because you're not learning, we can uh, start promoting to the student the liberty to feel free to think and provide answers that are outside of the box, and at some point, uh, open-minded attitude toward the learning experience.
That's totally true. We have power in the class, and we need to think or reflect about it to see if we are doing things correct, if we are really allowing the students to express their ideas in a free way, and to uh, make decisions and be creative, if we are promoting that, or if we just want the students to do what we want them to do.
Sure.
Flor.
I think about that, Giancarlo said, he talked about very important aspect, and I think that a good way that the teacher can help the students to have an open mind is not only when the teacher speak and say that. It's very important that the students look at the teacher with the same attitude. For example, about the religions. If maybe in our classroom there are students with different religion, it's very important that the student look at the teacher with an open mind or in front of these aspects. Because if the teacher avoid any student because he or she is Catholic or is a Jehovah's Witness, it is not a good way that the teacher help the students to have an open mind in front of that situation. So it's very important for me not only say, but also express with his or her behavior, the teacher's behavior, in front of any topic, any issue, or any problem.
Mm-hmm. Right, it's a reflection that we all have to do. Well, the reading mentions that we can promote that open mind by having the students research, by exposing the students to critical thinking activities, by having the students solve problems and design methods to get information when they don't know something, like to solve the problem or find out how to solve it. Now, what about encouraging curiosity and motivation?
I think, teacher, that in this part is very, very, very important questions, because when we ask questions to students about why, when, why, what do you think, how can you, the students afford to give an answer, a thinking answer. So it's a good way to encourage the students' curiosity and motivation, because if we present the students a motivated topic, if we know in what aspects the students are interested in, it's easy in this case for the teacher to encourage the motivation presented a interesting topic in front of the students.
Good. So, thinking about a students' interests, right? Encouraging them to deal with new challenges, encouraging them to learn something they need to solve a problem. Exactly, having them ask good questions to solve a problem. And what about how to help them to become more tolerant to uncertainty? So if we don't present all the situations, all solved situations, but we give them clues to analyze possibilities. So as you mentioned before, if we don't give them all the answers, but have them analyze possibilities, so we have them um, be active in a way that they are not giving everything ready, but they need to think about possibilities. What about flexibility? How can we have them become more flexible?
Maybe providing activities with multiple solutions instead of single solution activities.
Exactly. So we have, for example, debates in which they can hear different points of views, or we can have them think about different solutions to the same problem. We can have them think about the different options they might encounter.
I think that
I think
maybe,
that by giving the chance, right?
By
I
giving
think
them
that maybe with the flexibility, we can help them to understand the other people's situation. I mean, when another person has another point of view, and we teach the student that we have to respect the others' points of view, and in that way they will try to understand why that person has that point of view, and at that moment they are going to learn to be more flexible and understand that not only they have the only answer, I mean that there are many possibilities of answer to a question.
exactly. So they can hear their classmates giving the reasons why they consider something is good or bad, or the justification for them to choose one or the other, so they can start thinking that there are different possibilities, not only the one that they think is correct. What about helping the students to be tolerant to unsuccessful situations? How can we help them to become tolerant?
It's very important that the students know that when we have a great goal or a great purpose, always this is joined with mistakes. If I want to get a big or a great goal, we have more possibilities, maybe on the way to make mistakes.
Yeah, so we need to tell them that those drawbacks are always exist. Have you heard about those students who face really hard moments in their lives because their parents don't allow them to make mistakes? They want them to be perfect, but that's impossible. It's not real
Yes.
that their lives can be nice all the time, that they just can't deal with any problem. That is is not is not healthy. It's not real. Uh, is not possible. So every time students or people think that everything can be perfect, is just they are just making more difficult their interaction with reality.
Teacher,
All right.
and these students are always afraid of several things. First of all, that the other students what are going to say about they punished they are going to have in their houses, and also the fact that if they don't understand, they will be afraid of asking, and they are always just worried and anxious about everything and ask the teacher all the time, teacher, what about my test? What is the recovery of that? So we have a makeup test, or we are going to make another activity in order to improve my score. Teacher, please help me. And they cried a lot and make a lot of things. But I think one way to support them is by tell them that we are not a know-it-all persons. Also, adults can make mistakes, and we are humans, and that is a natural fact that all persons have. So I think that when a student make a mistake and the other laugh on him or her, and I said just like an example by saying, if you fell down and it wasn't your fault and the other laughed on you, what are you going to feel about it? No, teacher, I won't like to the other students laugh at me. So I said, please don't do it, because think that you were that person. So you don't do to the other person that think that that they don't want to do to you. So try to figure. And they say, oh, teacher, you're right. I'm not a know-it-all person.
Okay, so by talking to students about real situations that they deal,
Yeah, teacher,
that can help. Yes,
I have an experience about this.
John.
Teacher,
Yes.
yes, I'd like to share something that because I have an experience about that we're talking about. I've been working in a project with my students at the institute that I was developing my professional practices. And we developed the PBL with a driving question, which was they were concerning, all my students were concerned about the accidents, car crash and accidents with their parents. So that's why they established the question as that how can we help our parents to avoid accidents by high speeding or any other distractions while driving. But this is what happened during the last weekend, because one of their parents have an accident during the long weekend. And this is something that is an example, because there are experiences in life that is out of control. So they understood that they recommended in an infogram very good recommendations to their parents. For example, don't mix alcohol and gasoline, fasten their seat belt, and other very interesting recommendations. But even though there's one that had an accident, so this is I think it's a very good example about this. The students understood that there's something that is out of control in life, teacher.
Uh-huh. So that's a good example on exposing the students to the idea that not everything can be planned and can be perfect, but we need that
Yes.
we always face drawbacks and problems.
Yes, teacher.
Thank you, John. Any other idea on how to help the students to be tolerant to unsuccessful situations?
Yes.
Arley?
Well, talking about like unsuccessful situations, actually the students who want to be perfect because maybe they are not tolerant to be unsuccessful themselves in a classroom or in a lesson, they are like the most difficult students I've had, I think, because like when a student says like, okay, explain me, teacher, why I made a mistake. So they want like a justification for them to understand that they are not perfect, and it is very difficult for them to understand that they make mistakes, that they're human beings, and that for them like make a mistake is like I don't know, killing a person. So they are like very difficult students, but once the teacher lets them know that this is just a process, that of course if they uh, were born learned, they wouldn't have to go to school to learn things. So that's why it is very important to tell them that this is a process, that we're not judging them, that we're just like helping them to improve, and this is not like a mistake, or we're not punishing them against, we're just giving them like an opportunity to improve, and that we're helping them in that process, that we're not judging them, and that we are on their side. So when we do that as teachers, we help them to understand that of course we make mistakes and we can improve, and the idea to be like another person that helps them in the process, in not a person that is going to judge them. It helps a lot for them to become tolerant to unsuccessful situations.
Exactly. So by talking to them about those possibilities. Mhm. Okay, the reading tell us that we can have students reflect on the causes of failure and think about possible ways to reduce future risks. Because when, for example, the students are working on a project and they don't find all the answers or they get drawbacks, um, we need to help them think about how to prevent possible risks, uh, to reflect about something they might change in order to continue working and try to achieve the goal. Okay, this is the last characteristic, which is to um, become attracted to learning. So how can we help the students to be interested in learning?
Teacher, I think the best way is to personalize in the classes. So giving students topics or themes that they are interested in. In that way, they are going to learn better and the learning is going to be meaningful.
Okay, so by having them or by allowing them to take their interest or make their interest part of the class. Exactly. Any other idea? Well, they already mentions to promote outdoor activities, to take special guests to the classes, to promote exchanges and visits to communities, so that we give them. Those are like the sources we can provide students, uh, or we can use to have students start thinking about something different, become interested on solving problems, others examples on something real that they can solve, something they can start thinking about that is part of their reality.
Yeah, and also I think that show them the benefits of, for saying something in our case, the use of language and how they are going to get involved in a global citizenship, for saying something, and let them to explore different possibilities to explore the world through those benefits of the acquisition of language or the use of it or the way they express their feelings and their experiences might be a significant experience for them.
Mhm. Okay. Well, there are some phases of creativity, so that probably we have experienced them. The first thing is that we need to be interested in something. The second thing is that we need to think about how to get information about that topic that we are interested in. We need to think about the possible drawbacks that we will face and how we can deal with them. We need to think about how we can deal with the drawbacks and that we will need. We need to know how we learn, how we can, what are our strengths and weaknesses, how we can assess the actions that we will carry out in the process of getting a goal or making an idea a very or really original or innovative. So we have the idea, we start researching about it, we start thinking about um, if we are going to create something, we start thinking about the possible problems that we will face to create that. After that, it is expected that we let aside that idea for a short period of time, and then we get back the idea. We start working on how to make the idea become a reality, how we are going to assess the results, and that will be the end of the phases that we usually experience when we are creating something. So I would like to know if you have comments related to this, probably experiences you have faced when you have created something new, or your class or your students.
Well, maybe I have an experience with some students that I had like 3 years ago, and it was about like when you let them, I don't know, decide what they are going to present, or maybe if you're going to have an oral defense, and you tell the students to prepare any topic or anything you want to talk about. There are some students that prepare the presentation better than others, and also they have like more relevant information and like better materials, or that they use like or they have like a better usage of language than other students. And when you as a student are going to present, and you see that your presentation has like a better presentation talking about like that maybe your partner prepared like a better presentation, or that maybe he has a better usage of language, in that moment you're going to feel like, I mean, that you are terrible at English, or that your presentation is terrible. So immediately, like those type of experiences, it is going to make that the student feel badly, and that the student is not going to be engaged with the process because now he feels that he's terrible at something. So that happens to me with some students like 3 years ago about in a final presentation. I remember that.
So I would say that in those cases, there is, which you just need to continue continue with the idea of having the students face those type of activities. There is no way to learn how to be tolerant to failure if you just don't face problems. So it's just with the by creating a habit of it, by having the students face those type of activities, that they will develop the skill. It's like we cannot expect the students become good speakers if they don't speak. We cannot expect the students to be tolerant to failure if they don't face problems. So you will face you will deal with those type of students, and they will need to become accustomed to that, to those type of activities, and that they will face with problems and that they will need to find out a solution. So I would say that you just need to continue having the students work on different activities similar to the ones that they found as a problem.
Teacher, I want to share an experience.
Sharon?
One day, I wrote in the board a sentence, and I take a paper, and I said to students to organize in groups, and I said, you are going to write this sentence in this paper, and you are going to have 3 minutes to write a story about the sentence that is in the board. So they were just excited about what they was going to create in order to use language, because at that time I taught them present perfect, and they have to use the structure. So it was a challenging time, and they get so excited about it, and they have to solve the issue of the time, and also they have to use their creativity to make those activities. So it was kind of exciting activity, and we promoted tolerance because most of them were just as lower writers. and the other was just expecting for the things that the others wrote. So that experience was significant for me as a teacher, and also I think for the students.
Okay, so the type of or the level of difficulty of the exercise again needs to be needs to consider the students' knowledge of the language, age, and
yes.
So for some students that have more information about English, or that have more knowledge of the language, the exercise could be very easy. But for others who don't have a lot of knowledge of English, that can be challenging.
Yes.
So we need also to think about it when we plan, when we think about an exercise to promote creativity. Okay,
yes.
Thank you, Sharon. Well, what you will find in the readings, those of you who have not finished or started the reading, is this information plus an experience of a teacher who works at Marymount and try to promote creativity in the art class that he tutors. So the questionnaire that you have to take this week is about this reading, and well, I don't know if you have more comments or questions about this before we finish.
Teacher, I have two questions about this.
Yes, John.
Teacher, of course, the reading is written in Spanish, but of course, the questionnaire will be answered in English. Is that right?
Yes, the questionnaire is in English.
It's in English, yes. The second is more than a personal request, teacher. It's regarding the video that I uploaded last Sunday, because you are well aware that I was working in a project, in a PBL, but I found out that it wasn't a very challenging project. At the same time, was rewarding. When I say rewarding, it's because I'm very happy because my students, they really enjoy it, carry out this kind of project. But I realized at the same time that it was challenging because it was very difficult for me to tape the videos at different places and different locations and at different times. So at the end, I had to compile to gather all the videos in just one video. That's why my biggest concern about this is because the video duration is the length of 40 minutes. So I'm asking you just a little attitude about this issue, teacher, because it was very challenging. It's easier for us recording in a video class inside in a classroom in a very controlled educational environment. It's easier, but working outside with the kids and developing activities in the park or in amusement park I realized was difficult. So that's why I'm begging your attitude about this, teacher.
Okay, I understand that. I just want you to let me know as what you videotape recorded is one part of the project. I would like you to let me know what happened before or after, so that I understand what part of the process of the project you video recorded, right? So
yes, teacher. In that case that you're talking about, I divided in 4 different topics in 4 different weeks. So it's easy for you to find out which one is the first, the second, the third, and the final stage. Is my biggest concern about the length of the video's duration. Is that's it? Because it's I know that it's 2 hours at the least, but my video is 40 minutes. So that's why I'm requesting this.
okay, now I understand. For example, there was a classmate or student that I had like a year ago who worked with PBL, and one part of her PBL was to have the student attend to or go to a museum and then ask some people that were in the museum about their opinions on the different paintings that they were watching. So of course the person didn't video record the whole visit to the museum, but just one part of it at the beginning, and then at the end when she interviewed some people. So I guess something similar happened to you. But anyway, I will let you know if I have questions about the video. I will let you know through an email if I have questions.
Teacher.
Okay.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you. Somebody else? Any question or comment before we finish? Okay, guys. So thank you very much for your participation, for your patience, and for joining the encounter. Email me if you have questions, and have a good night. We'll meet next week.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, teacher. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a
Bye,
good
teacher.
night.